So in today's video we're going to look at how we can make a high score for our game. If you've played games like Temple Run or Subway Surf, then definitely you would know that if there is no quest in the game, you have to somehow chip score or something that can make the player feel like he's progressing in the game. And as you can see, I have an empty scene here with nothing but just a solid color which I changed from my main camera. This is it. I changed it to solid color. The background is somehow light blue. So I would show you how to just maybe design a basic UI for your high score and score. So what we do now is we right click on our hierarchy, go into UI, and we select an image. So we reset the rect transform for this image. Okay, so it should do, and then we're going to scale it up. Let me change this to 2D. So we'll scale this up to fill our canvas. And I wouldn't be using any image, so I would just change the color down here. Right click or left click on this white color, and then I'm going to select something, let's see, of that extent. I think this is not too bright, not too damp, so this should be okay. If you want to copy the hexadecimal value, this is it. So you can pause the video and do that and catch up with me. So what we do now is we create texts to hold these variables for us in our UI. So we can right click on this image, go into UI, and select text. So this text now we can select this tool, move tool, so we can adjust it wherever we want. I'm going to keep it somewhere at the edge over here, and probably change this font size to something like 32. That would get missing inside of the game, the UI panel over here. But then when you scale it up, you can see it comes back, and it's okay now. So let's center this, and let's change the name to score. We also change the name in the hierarchy to score text. So we can go ahead and duplicate this now and select the move tool and move it to the opposite direction, somewhere about there. Add high to the end of this. So let's call this high. Let's call this high score. So this should be okay. And let's rename this also to something like high score text. I think this should do for now. The next thing we'll do would be to create a C# script here. We're going to name this, let's say, score. I'm thinking about it. Let's call this score. So let me double click this to open it up in Visual Studio, and I'll see you there. So inside of Visual Studio, what we want to do is create before we create variables, let's just declare another simple area which we'll be using in Unity, and this would be our UI. So using Unity engine.ui, so that we can have access to our UI elements, and then now we can start with our variables. So my first variable would be a string, and you see the reason why I need that in a second. So to be a string, let me use underscore score. because I don't want this name matching with the name of my class, or there's going to be a conflict between the two. So next would be a float. This float would be my score. Again, this is in lowercase, not the same with this, so there's a difference. I'm going to set this to 0 by default. After which I'm going to create an integer, which would be my high score. I'm not going to set this value also. So finally, we're going to have two public texts. The first one would be my we call this score text. Second, also public text, should be my high score text. So high score text, and this is it. So these are the variables. Now I'm going to clear this start method because it's not needed for today anyway. We might need it in the next tutorial. So what we would do now is we're going to use something inside of Unity, something called PlayerPrefs actually. So it's just like when you build your game inside of Unity, it provides you with a simple folder, or I like to refer to it more of like a memory card where you can store like save data which you want to save and things that you don't want to like get deleted, maybe your progress inside of a level or more of that. So it's more like the memory card of the game which you can access, and that is by using something called PlayerPrefs. So we'll use this today inside of our update. Before we do that, let's set this score equal to let's create a string for it, so that's like a holder, and then let's call this score. So this should be okay, and then inside of our update now we can start with declaring the score. So in this case our score would be equal to time, or we're going to add this to it, time dot delta time. So this is going to be our score, and then our high score, this would be equal to the integer value of our score. So after this is the part where we use the PlayerPref. So we're going to use an if statement for this and check to see if our PlayerPrefs dot get int. So this way it brings back something for us to work with, and it's going to get the integer of our score. So normally what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to put a string here which is going to act like the key, and then we're going to put a value to check to see if both of them are going to work. So this should be a string for the PlayerPrefs, and then the other should be like a value which is going to contain. That's more or less like having a key to something else. So in this case we want to check to see if this score is less than or equal to our high score, and if that is so, then we want to execute this method or this function. We're going to set our PlayerPref. We're going to set this integer value, and this is going to be our in this case this will be our score, underscore score, of course. I have to put this inside its own parentheses. So this our score would be set to our Highscore value, and that is it. So finally, now what we can do in our Highscore text, what we want to display to our players is this Highscore, which would be the text. This would be equal to our PlayerPrefs dot get int, and this int would be our score, just like before, underscore score, and we're going to set this to string. So what this just did is we declared our score, which is time.delta time, and then we created an integer for the score, which would be the Highscore. And we're checking to see if the score, that's the value of the PlayerPrefs, or the string which we put to contain this value, if it's less than or equals to Highscore, then we want to set this value to our Highscore, and finally display this in form of text. So this text, Highscore.text or Highscore text.text, would show it inside of our game, and then we can get this current score or Highscore from the PlayerPrefs and set it to string. So to string just converts this any number value to a string. So that's just what we did. And finally, before we go back into Unity, we can set our score also dot text to be equal to our Highscore dot to string. Yeah. So I think this should work now, no problem. So let's save this and see what it looks like inside Unity. So we have an error, and this error is a float, doesn't have a definition for text. So let's check this. Okay, so instead of score text, I used score, just score. So let's save this now, and everything should be okay. So with this done and there are no more errors, it's all cleared up. Let's open our canvas, go to our score text, and we can duplicate this by hitting Ctrl D, dragging this score text 1 under the score text, and we'll rename this to score. So we can also reset the transform for this one, and then instead of score, what we do is change this number to 0, and I think everything else should be okay. So we can drag this down below the score value, and we can see there it's 0. Same thing should be applied to the text. So we duplicate this, change this to Highscore, and inside this we change it also to 0, and drag this under the Highscore text, close this or collapse it, and drag this also down somewhere about there. And we're going to create an empty game object and name this our Highscore manager or score manager, anyone. And reset this transform, so we can drag our script under there, and you can see it gives us two fields, one for the score text and the other for the Highscore. but we're not going to be putting the text. What we would rather put would be the values. So this score will go into the score text, and this high score under high score text, so that it shows the numbers under, which would be these ones, not the text converting itself to a number. That would be somehow. So let's go ahead and play the game now. And you can see that the two values are updating simultaneously. So let's exit from this game now, and we can replay the game, so we can make sure that our PlayerPrefs are actually working. So you can see that the last high score which we stopped as was 8, and now it's still giving us 8. So let's wait for this score to catch up. And you can see now that they were both equal. They start moving up together. We can stop this and play again. I think the last number was 12, or was it 14? And you can see it saved as 14. So that's just a simple way which you can create high score inside of Unity. If you've learned something from this tutorial, make sure you hit that red button down below so that you get notified whenever I update. Thank you guys for watching this video, I guess, and I will see you in my next video.